But sometimes we want perfection and we just label it excellence.
Got it.
And it's unattainable, you know. And don't get me wrong, like we need to be. You need to have your bathrooms clean. You need to have your kids' areas ready to go. The church needs to be ready when people get here. But this excellent mentality, I think, has almost become like an idol in churches.
A picture perfect.
Yeah, kind of where it has to be picture perfect, or people aren't going to come back. And if that was the case, we wouldn't have people in our church, because we're not. You know, we do the best that we can. But I think again, you just have to stay true to what God's called you to do.
Hey guys, welcome to the Saved and Tatted podcast. Glad to have y'all back. Today I have a real special guest, my pastor, Pastor Derrick. It's nice to have you back.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, we had you, what was it, season 2, George? Season 1? And yeah, I can't remember. It's been about a year since we've started this back up. I recently went back to school, so kind of took some time off to get adjusted to that schedule and everything. But I'm glad that we're able to get this started back up, and really interested in the conversation we're about to talk about, because it has to do with the church. We've really seen a lot of growth happening. We've seen stuff that only God can do, God moving in the building. But if you can give us a little more, I know that we talked about, how you arrived here in Rosenberg and Richmond, but if you can give a little more insight for any new viewers and stuff on how y'all ended up over here in this area.
Yeah, so I grew up in Pasadena, and then me and my wife both actually did, and then we moved into Pearland in 2006. Went on staff there to church pretty soon after that. We'd never been in full-time ministry or anything. It's just I ended up going on staff at the church we were at, served there for 10 years, and we just we got to a point where we realized as good as friends we had and everything in that environment, and it was great for a season, but we just knew God had something different for us. So we just started praying what that was going to look like. We felt it was supposed to start a church, and we really just kind of started praying. I talked to some friends that were like, man, God told me it was this city immediately. And we didn't really have that moment. We just started driving around, and we're like, where could we see ourselves living, raising our kids? So originally we launched in Sugar Land, but we always lived in Richmond. And like where we live, when you get out here, you realize that like, man, across the street might be a different city. Yeah. So we kind of live on the corridor of Rosenberg, Richmond, Sugar Land. And during COVID, going online, being portable, all that kind of stuff, coming out of COVID, we just started praying about finding something permanent. And God led us to this building where we're at now. And it's just been good. I mean, we felt like home when we got here. Sugar Land, when we were portable at Constellation Field, it was good. We had great people, but we always kind of felt like visitors. Even as the pastor, I felt like a visitor in that area. Where here, we felt like home since the day we got over here. So yeah, it's been great.
Do you think that a lot of that feeling is because of the fact that it wasn't your own building? Do you think if y'all would have found a building maybe in that area that things would have kind of been a little different, or you just feel, this area is really where you were meant to be at?
I think we were meant to be here, and I heard a long time ago, God will use what he needs to use to get you to where you need to be. Yeah. And so I don't think it would have mattered where we were at, because I know truly this is where we're supposed to be now. This reminds me so much of where I grew up, Pasadena and Rosenberg. They're so similar. So it's just felt so comfortable. People, like, we relate to them so well. So yeah, I think it was just we needed to get where God truly had for us. Yeah. But to get us out here,
it had to start in Sugar Land.
We started in Sugar Land because we're like, that would work, because at Rosenberg where I lived, man, it just seemed so far away. Yeah. And then it's actually closer to my house than where we were meeting portable in Sugar Land. Yeah. So, yeah.
No, we love the church. Me and my family, we've been, it's so hard for me to keep track. COVID really messed up my gauge of years and everything, but we came to Easter after y'all had y'all's little paint party, so I don't know.
So that would have been Easter 21.
Yeah, so the month after that is when we came, and we love it. It's been awesome to be able to see the growth happen. It's been awesome, especially being, for serving opportunities. I kind of take the numbers and come through and get the count and everything, and every day I'm like excited to see what the number has been, because we're seeing new faces, and not just new faces coming and going, but new faces and staying. Yeah. And it's been a real blessing to be able to be a part of the growth that's happening here.
Yeah.
Right now in the season that we're growing, we're sometimes seeing that in this same time, other churches aren't making it, or other churches at the time, at this time of year, are having their lowest numbers. Do you think there's anything that Purpose is doing that's being able to get the people to come in? I mean, I know we don't do any type of marketing. A lot of our stuff is self-posted Instagram post and word of mouth. Do you think that that's something that's bringing people and then getting them to stay?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, because again, so we haven't done any marketing. I think it's been literally, basically the 3 years we've been in this building, I think we advertised for the first month. And then quickly we were just like, we got to get used to a building payment.
Yeah.
So we cut thing, and then it was just kind of like we realized God will send people in. In the early days, 100%, like my goal was, man, we're going to grow this. Like when we were portable and moving here, we were hoping we would see growth, but we just decided we were going to stop chasing it. In the early days when we chased it, we would spend money on marketing campaigns. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. So for all the churches that do it, like, man, I know there's people that they are like called to do that kind of thing. For us, though, we just realized, in my mind as the pastor, if I'm not chasing it, I just feel I stay in a healthier place.
Gotcha.
Because I'm going to be content with what God is sending in. So for me, right now, I just believe 100% what we're seeing is just the fruit of people filling something here, like family atmosphere and the people that have been part of Purpose, and then they naturally go out and they want to bring people with them. So I mean, pretty much anytime we meet somebody in the hallway and we say, "Hey, how did you hear about us?"
It's someone
invited them, or they drove by and saw the sign. And so it's nothing we're really doing other than the people that call Purpose home are just excited. And that's what I told my wife the other day, because we were kind of reflecting, and I said it's really cool to be a part of something where the people are so excited, they're literally helping it grow. And we're, because I'm not even telling people on stage every Sunday, hey, make sure you invite your friends.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying, so I can't really take credit for any of it, because I'm not doing anything to push it. And that's what I like about it, because God's just doing it. So it helps you stay out of that striving mentality and just like, man, God has been so good and so faithful through all of it.
He really has. I've noticed, even I've invited family members. My aunt, she just got baptized. What would have been when we filmed this 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
She just got baptized. So that was pretty awesome to witness and be there for that. It was a blessing. And even my ex-wife's family, my ex-sister-in-law, they come and they're here, and they came because, we invited them. My ex-wife, she comes with her, her husband, and it's good because Axel sees that, and, he comes out and sees his mom in service and everything. The joy that he gets to see of being able to have. This is probably one of the kids, the boys, Axel and Rogan, this is by far probably their favorite place to be at. Yeah. They're excited. Axel wakes up early just so he can come be with your boys to, play before they go back into the kids ministry. I mean, you see Rogan running around being crazy and yelling and everything, saying hi to every stranger. So it's good to see that Purpose is like genuine as far as the overall environment and the type of chemistry that is here. You can really feel the genuine love that everyone has for each other. When we had Edwin, our old keys player, he was on, and we basically talked about how important and how much his family has been to our family. We've grown so close to each other. Carlos, Elba, and Pastor Janet. It's been amazing to be able to create relationships like that. When we left our old church, we thought we weren't going to be able to find relationships like that we had there. And we found some that have even become stronger. And so, a lot of that has to do with y'all being faithful and you and Pastor Lisa being obedient to what y'all are doing. And, I just want to say thank y'all for that, because it gives my family a place to feel loved and a place to grow. So I appreciate that a lot. One of the things,
but even like for us, I mean, when we got out here, it was lonely.
Yeah.
Because we moved out here really not knowing anybody. And then when we started, we moved out here a year and a half before we started the church. So in April of 2018, we moved out here. Church didn't start till September of 2019. And it was like, we knew nobody, So that's been the cool part too, is now like all those people you're saying are so close to you. It's so, like, I've heard people say, as a pastor, you can't truly be friends with the people in your church, and I just disagree.
Yeah.
Like, I believe you can, and you can still speak wisdom into them, and you can still challenge them when they need to be challenged. But no, that's the cool thing too, is just like our boys, they have friends they didn't have.
Yeah.
We have friends we didn't have. We have, and like, it's just when you're going through hard seasons, which we've obviously been through some personally with health things and things like that, just being able to have those people in your corner that are saying, hey, we're here for you. So that's what I've liked about it, because I kind of feel like the same thing that our family needed when we moved out here, God's just allowed us to help provide that for a bunch of other families now.
Yeah.
So it's been really cool.
One thing that I really noticed, especially here with Purpose, other than, past churches that we visited or have gone to, is that, I have friends that attend other churches. We have George who produces this, and then he attends a church down the road, and we have had other friends that I've had from, and we all kind of intertwine. We all kind of help each other out. Was that something that y'all were familiar with over I know you said that Pasadena, right?
Yeah. So I grew up in Pasadena, and then we lived in Pearland. Yeah. So Pearland's where I was in full-time ministry. And like we knew the other church. Like I think we had friends from other churches. For me, probably had a couple, we have one that comes to our church now, Phil. So he was a youth pastor in Friendswood. I was a youth pastor in Pearland. We didn't have probably deep relationships outside of our church, but our church there was very family oriented. It was very much, I look back on it and I'm thankful. Some of those relationships we still have today. Some of them, distance creates what it creates. So some of them we don't, but some of them we do. And I look back and I'm thankful for it. But yeah, I think for us, we just wanted to create the mentality that we weren't here to compete with anybody.
That's good.
I truly believe that every church is needed, but I also believe that every church is called to do what God called them to do. So, like George's church, they're going to reach people we're not going to reach. There's going to be people that walk into Calvary that aren't going to walk into here, and vice versa. And to me, that's a good thing, because that means collectively we can reach more people.
More people. That's good.
So that's why we're really big on trying to stay, God has called us to do what we are doing. So we're not going to get overly concerned with what other people are doing. We're going to be there and support them and love them and help them how we can. But God doesn't need us all to look the same.
Yeah.
Every Sunday morning at churches across our city, all the different context, culture, everything that happens, they all happen for a reason, and we're going to collectively we can reach so much more people. So for us, I think it was just trying to have the open mentality of, hey, the church across, and we literally have one across the street.
Yeah.
Like, they're not our competition. No church around us is our competition. We just want to be here to reach the people God called us to reach, and that's how I view it. So I don't view it as like, it wasn't a strategy. It was just, this is who we want to be.
Yeah.
I don't want there to be tension if we sit in a room with a pastor. Like, it should be, hey, tell us what y'all are doing.
Yeah. So, how's everything going over there and
Yeah.
over here? No, that's good, because I think people who come and who have visited and stayed, I think one of the reasons that I can say a reason that we've stayed is just because stuff like that, we really see the posture of your heart. We see the posture of Pastor Lisa's heart, and the way that y'all approach people in the area, because this area comes from a lot of church hurt area, and the episode that we recorded in the previous season was over that. And so if anyone who wants to hear that, you can go back to season 1 and find that. But I think that's one of the things, is that the posture of your heart is genuine. The way that y'all love on people is genuine, and it's really hard to sometimes find that in churches. And we had talked with Edwin about this, about the difference of the community in a small church to the overwhelming masses in a mega church.
Yeah.
That God can still be found in both, and the Holy Spirit can still fill a room, but certain churches are going to attract certain people for what it is that they're looking for. And I think that the overall fellowship and the relationship that Purpose started with is what ultimately is keeping people and then calling more people to come. So, I mean, I think that's really cool that they were able to not, again, like you said, there's nothing wrong with marketing or anything like that.
Yeah.
But just to see people inviting people and people wanting to stay.
Well, and I think you have to know, like, so as a pastor, or I guess you could say as a leader, no matter what you do, I think you have to know what are the things that your heart has a tendency to struggle with. And for me, I learned early on, it was that striving of, man, let's get this thing to grow, let's get this thing to grow. And there was almost like a validation in my mind that I needed when the church hit here I was going to feel like, okay, we did it. So for me, because of that, like for marketing for us, it's just, I would rather not open that door in my heart. I would rather just say, I can't take credit for anything because God's sending the people in, or it's our people that are inviting people in. So I think you just have to know what are the things in your mind that can get you in an unhealthy place. And for me, one of those in the beginning was like, I mean, because I joke about it when I preach sometimes. Like if you ask our original people when we were portable setting up pipe and drape, I probably wasn't as fun as I am now because I was so focused on, man, let's make it look perfect. Let's make this right. And I look back on it and I'm thankful that all those people were so faithful and they stuck with us. But man, we should have just focused on having more fun. When we were portable, we had some. I think they probably had more fun than me because I was so focused all the time on it had to look perfect. And that's where I kind of got to the mindset of, man, like it doesn't have to look, like you do your best that you can do. But I think the idol of excellence is like there's a difference between excellence and extravagance. And I think we want to do all we can to do the very best that we can do, and we just label it excellence.
Got it.
And it's unattainable, And don't get me wrong, like you need to have your bathrooms clean, you need to have your kids' areas ready to go, the church needs to be ready when people get here. But this excellent mentality, I think, has almost become like an idol in churches.
A picture perfect.
Yeah, where it has to be picture perfect or people aren't going to come back. And if that was the case, we wouldn't have people in our church, because we're not. We do the best that we can. But I think again, you just have to stay true to what God's called you to do.
I'm glad that you brought that up. When you first started the church, and you basically stated like how back when you were portable, you probably weren't as fun as what you would think now. Where was that mentality that kind of shifted? Was there a certain point where it was like whether it be, a God moment, whether it be, you had an epiphany, like what was it that shifted your momentum to where like, I'm focusing way too much on numbers?
Yeah. So for me, it was COVID. So we launched in September of 2019. Our 6-month anniversary was COVID. And then we closed for 15 weeks in a row. So going into the COVID closure one, if I'm being completely transparent, I even told my wife, this is the graceful exit. We can close it down.
We have a reason.
No one can fault us, And she just told me, she said, as long as it's viable, we need to keep going. And she meant basically as long as all of our bills were covered for the church. And I knew it was impossible. It would not happen because it was so low because we weren't paying rent because we were portable. I wasn't taking a salary. So it's like our overhead was like so small. Our personal giving, I was like, well, you have a job, so we're going to be okay because the overhead was so small. But going into COVID, it just showed me real quick, like, man, I guess for next week, I'm going in my backyard with my cell phone on the patio. I don't know what I'm going to do. But I had just resigned. That's what I'm going to do because it's what I can do. Because we own cameras, but, like, we didn't know how to do anything. Like, y'all look around at this stuff, and I'm like, we had no clue how to do this still. So, but so going into COVID, we ended up getting a phone call through a God connection, and a guy said, look, we want you to come into our studio and we're going to pay for it for your first 4 weeks. And then another church that we became friends with, they were at our launch service. After those first 4 weeks, they said, hey, we want to help cover some of purposes. So like we ended up having really good online messages throughout COVID. Worship and it was really cool. But during COVID, it just kind of showed me, it gave me enough time away from what we were doing to realize that even me as the pastor, I wasn't enjoying it.
Yeah.
Am I looking forward to going back in person? So I just started praying, and I talked to Lisa, and that's when we truly made the decision. We were part of an organization that during COVID, we made the decision to officially step away from. Nothing wrong with them. It's just for us, it didn't fit. So we made the decision to step away from them, which was kind of like a plug-and-play church model, where we went more of, okay, God has called us to this area to do something. We believe each of us are called uniquely to do something. So we're going to focus on what we want to do. And there was a phone call I had with a really good friend of mine. He's preached here a couple times. His name's John. He's in Las Vegas. And I called him during COVID just to talk to him. He's asked me how we're doing. I was like, we're fine. And he said, man, all I want to tell you is make sure if your church doesn't make it, that you don't look back and say it didn't make it because I did what someone else told me to do.
Gotcha.
He said, just make sure if it doesn't make it, you can look back and say, we did everything God told us to do, and it just didn't make it. And because then he says you're obedient, and he says your regrets will be so much more minimal than have you just say, man, we followed the system, and the system didn't work, and it was the system's fault. So that conversation really helped
Yeah.
point me in the direction. So when we came back, I kind of came back after COVID shut down as, okay, I'm going to have fun on Sunday mornings. Even though it's still a grind, I'm going to have fun. We're going to have fun. And that's when we really started thinking, what does it look like to get out of being portable, even if it's small, because our church was small. And that's what ultimately led us to where we're at.
No, that's good because I mean, so since then we've had what 1, 2, 3 expansions, if I'm not mistaken.
1, 2, yeah, 3, I think.
Three,
Yeah.
and then if we count,
Well,
this
one
year-
was quick because we knocked a wall down
down.
3 months in. And then we had the second one. Yeah, so 3 total.
3.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's amazing to see. And I think, you know, you look back and it would kind of be hard to say if that would have happened had we stuck with had you stuck with the routine that you were based on beforehand and the plans that were given to you before that. One of the things that stands out for Purpose, and one of the things that really draws families in, is your heart for special needs ministry.
Yep.
Can you give a little detail on that and how Purpose runs with that?
Yeah, so that was always a big part of what we felt God had called us to do. And again, because we were trying to fit the mold in the beginning, the organization that we were with, they basically just told us, hey, that won't work. And to the point where we recommend you don't do it. Had multiple meetings with different people. So we just kind of put it on the back burner. We launched Portable, because we always knew launching Portable, it was going to be a way to figure out how are we. I mean, we're doing good to reach anybody, So how are we going to really tailor it? So we just started praying about it. So we just decided on the other side of COVID, and when we found the building, that we felt we'd be able to get to it eventually. I mean, for those of you who don't know, I have 2 boys on the autism spectrum, so special needs is a big deal for us. But it takes resources, it takes people, and it takes. What we've learned now is it really just takes creativity to think differently to reach the kids. So when we got into here, we were thinking, well, one day we'll expand and we'll be able to make it work. But then we just decided, well, no, let's do what we can with what we have, and then God will give us more. So that's what we did. We just decided we're going to start doing what we can. So the old model that we were accustomed to was you had your special needs kids in one area and your kids that were not special needs in another area, and you kind of separated them. Like they had their own motor skills room and sensory room and all of that, and then the typical kids are just in their regular classrooms.
Now you say your old model, was that from
So at our old church? We did that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we launched one of those at our old church, and it was great. I mean, we did a building campaign to help fund it.
Expand it?
Yeah, and I mean, it was the church responded, and it was great. Like, it's a top of the line sensory room, motor skills room. I would love to have what they have. Don't get me wrong, but in this space, we couldn't make it work originally, and even now we have this space, but the amount of resources it takes to do what they did, we're not at that place. So we're making it work with what we can do, the best we can do. So, so we just decided, what would it look like if we kept the kids together? Like, what if we didn't have to have a separate room for the special needs kids? Because for me, as a special needs dad, I want my kids to be friends with your kids, and I want your kids to be friends with mine.
Yeah.
And I feel like it naturally created this isolation if we separated them. So we decided to start trying to include them all together, and it actually was working. So then when we were able to do the further expansion, now it's been almost a year and a half already since we did the big expansion. And now we have 3 dedicated rooms for elementary, and they all just rotate, but they're still together. Like, we keep our younger kids together, our older kids together, but they're in a motor skills room where they play. There's a little trampoline in there, and so it's like a play room. And like, I look back on that church thinking, man, I wish I had that growing up, just because it helps their attention.
Yeah.
So they go there, and then they go and learn the lesson, and then they just kind of rotate off of each other. And we're just continually trying to tweak it, but we've seen it work. So for us to make it work, what we made the decision of is, because you do need qualified people, and we have been a church too, as we've grown, we have tried not to tell people, now that you're here, get in somewhere. Like, we don't want people to feel like you're only here to serve. We want you to find, like, hey, this is your church, and then when you're ready to serve, we want to find your place. So we just made the decision to try to find some qualified people, and that's really been the biggest godsend. So where we're at now, we're kind of at a point where we could have paid a full-time kids pastor, which is what most churches would be doing right now if they were us. So instead of paying the full-time kids pastor, we took what that salary would be, and we actually have 8 qualified people that come every Sunday morning with what we would pay one kids pastor. We have all of those ladies coming in. They work at ABA clinics. Some of them work at paraprofessionals in the school district. Some of them, they're RBTs, like registered behavior technicians. They have a lot of experience dealing with special needs kids, but also with typical kids. So it's been a win-win because one, even though we're growing at a church, I don't care. I've heard this and it made me feel better. I talked to the people at Lakewood one time, and they said even at Lakewood they can't get enough kids volunteers. So it doesn't matter what size your church is.
Wherever it's at.
Kids ministry can be tough.
Yeah.
So knowing every Sunday we're starting with those ladies, it's made it where we're not begging people every Sunday. We got to have you back there. We got to have you back there. Mm-hmm. And we definitely want volunteers to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. And we have an amazing team that's helped in elementary as volunteers for so long. Yeah. But yeah, so those ladies have been a game changer.
They have. Yeah, the
they're
kids
consistent.
love them.
4 of them have been with us for over 2 years. Mm-hmm. They're consistent. They help us out when anything we do for everybody. So in other words, if we have an event if we have an event for everybody, it means we got to have the child care ready for our special needs kids.
Of course.
Small groups, special needs kids are going to need child care. So it's who we are. So they help with all of those things. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's been great. And I mean, our church knows like the 4 that have been with us for 2 years, they're like part of our church. Yeah. So that's been really, really good. And that's how we've made it work. It's just getting creative. How can we make it work? We can't afford the $75,000 sensory room or all the other stuff. That would be amazing to have, but right now what we can do is this. And yeah, I mean, we get great feedback from our special needs families, but also from our typical families that are so happy their kids are learning it. And then the thing that we're seeing now is those special needs families that come in kind of apprehensive because in all reality, most churches have kind of in a nice way told them they can't help them.
Yeah.
We don't tell people no, we figure it out.
Yeah.
So now they have their own small group, and it's our biggest small group in the church. They meet together, and it's just really, really cool to see them finding
community with each other.
Yeah, because they're normally, like, special needs families, they're normally isolated because
of course
they just feel like no one understands them. So seeing that group of people grow, but yeah, so now on most Sunday mornings we have somewhere probably 15 to 20 special needs kids in our kids' rooms.
And that's amazing. That's so awesome.
Yeah, so it's worked really well.
You know, and not even with the kids, but just like with us as adults and us as parents, being able to fellowship and be able to be in community with other parents who have special needs kids. Yeah. It's been an experience to be able to see, you know, sometimes like just being there for them when they need stuff. And you know, I have nieces and nephews who are on the spectrum as well. And so it's been a way to, my sister, she works with kids on the spectrum. She's ABA certified. And so she's been doing that for a while now. So we've been around that environment, but it's been family.
Yeah.
Being able to see our other families who have become real close friends and being able to be around their kids and be able to experience that type of environment with them is really benefiting us as well, because, you know, I can go now to my cousin's house and, you know, her kids are on the spectrum. I know how to talk to them now when before I really didn't. You know, I would try to be too aggressive on loving on them or try to be, you know, too much of this or too much of that. And now I know that there's everything has a certain way.
No, and it's really cool too. Like my highlight is every Sunday when the families walk in, the kids who used to cling to mom and dad,
they're running.
They're running everywhere now. Like they'll come up and say hi to me. We've had 2 of the kids speak that were nonverbal. One of them spoke in the building. So we're seeing, like, it's just so cool to be a part of it. But just watching those kids and watching the families, because they used to say, like, man, like him running the sanctuary, we would used to be like so worried, like, what are they going to do? Yeah. But obviously they're watching them, and we're all watching out for them too.
Of course.
But just letting them be kids, because I think so often as special needs families, your kids run around the building. Yeah. We don't think nothing of it. But as a special needs parent, we think, oh, our kids are running around the building. Yeah. You know, so I think, and again, like all safely. Like I'm not saying we're like free for all, but like after service, they stay in their rooms like when they're supposed to. But just watching them truly get to be kids at church, and their parents get to be parents at church, like get to talk to you as their kids in the sanctuary playing. That's and even my own kids, watching how our church has responded to our oldest. I mean, he's 15, so that means when we started the church, he was 10. Just watching as he's grown And as his needs change, he doesn't like being in the lobby now. It's too overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like he told me, Dad, we got too many people at our church.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, buddy, we're going to keep praying God does that more. But he likes to go straight to the sound
Yeah.
booth. But that's his home. Like he
Yeah.
found a spot in the
That's
sound
where
booth.
he's comfortable.
And even though he's not technically doing anything yet, just the team back there, like the worship team bought him candy to make sure he felt part of the team for his birthday. And watching our church truly embrace those families has probably been the thing that I've become the most proud of, because I will tell you, I never saw that anywhere. I never saw the families truly get integrated to the church as a whole as they have here. And like that's been my biggest win of, it's just been really, really cool to see.
And I was going to touch on that when you had said that, you wish that we could, have a high dollar sensory room and everything, but we've got to witness miracles like that.
Yeah.
We've got to witness nonverbal kids
Yeah.
become verbal. And we've got to witness a mom be able to take a breath and
Yeah.
talk to someone and have an adult conversation without having to worry about her, where is her kid running off to?
Yeah.
Even seeing, Zane coming in. I remember when him and his family first started coming in, he would be real closed off. And now he's on stage grabbing a microphone, singing and stuff like that. Like, it's awesome to see these kids, and it's romantic to be able to witness the things that are going on around here. Where do you see Purpose going further as far as the ministry goes, as far as the kids ministry, as far as where's your heart leading your vision for Purpose?
Yeah, I mean, people ask us this often, and we want to continue to basically just move forward in God's timing. So we're at a season now where we're having to like make some decisions as we go into next year, because we can't continue what we're doing with what we're doing at one service right now. So by the time this airs, we're going to go to two services in January, because we realize if we don't make more room, we're basically telling other families we don't have room for you.
For them, yeah.
So even as we go to two services, we're going to do all we can to maintain who we are as a church. We're not going to push the strategies that everybody else tells you to push. We're going to tell people, if you want to come to one service, come to one service. If you want to serve a service, serve it. Like, we're not going to say this is what everybody has to do, because we feel like that's what got us here. We believe can continue as long as we do it in a healthy manner. But no, long term, our vision, we want to do more and more to reach more and more families, like church people that come in hurt. That's a big burden for us. We want to continue to reach those families, continue to be a safe place for the people that really gave up on church. Continue to be a place that people can come in and really, they just want to be here on a Sunday, and that's okay. Like, they just need some time to come in and really process kind of where they're at in their life. But then beyond that, we just want to continue to do more and more with kids ministry. When it comes to special needs, our heart for that, if anything, like, we believe that God's begun to help us scratch the surface on what we can do, but we believe we can do far more. So, like, dream scenarios as we get into this next season, I'm believing that eventually we're gonna find a permanent building that we own. This one has been amazing, and our owner is phenomenal, and we're gonna be here as long as we can be here. But as we get into our own building, there's things long term. Like, man, I have a vision one day that a school for special needs kids. That's something that's always been in my heart, because their special needs kids fall in the gap of our public school system a lot. So being able to offer something specific for them at an affordable price where
That's good.
anybody could do it. And just really learning to love on those families more and more, because that's what I believe. If someone asks me just specifically, why is the church grown? I believe it's because we're reaching those families. I believe that when we go after and really target the families that nobody else is reaching, and we know it's not always going to be easy, but we will figure it out. I believe that God is just simply rewarding. Hey, if y'all are going to reach those families that are hard to reach, I'm going to continue sending you families to help you reach more and more. And that's what I believe. I believe that that's why we're seeing what we're seeing.
Oh, that's good. I believe it too. I think that's a big. You're giving an opportunity for people who didn't have a home before to finally find a home.
Yeah.
And it's I can't say it enough. It's such a blessing to be able to witness it, and not just witness it, but be a part of it, being able to see the growth that's happening and the people that are coming in and out of the building. And, it's amazing. We went to two services before, and then we kind of came back to one. It's amazing to go back to two services again and seeing that, God is steadily putting his hand on Purpose and filling Purpose. Do you think that at some time that, when we move forward and we start expanding, do you see your vision as far as the kids ministry? You talked about going into the school and kind of giving that opportunity for other families and everything. Do you plan on that being a part of the church, or you're looking at stuff like off to the side as well?
No, like that would be like, again, so that's like long-term dream. When people like say, what's the dream?
Dream away, Pastor.
When we own our own building, that we would be able, because I believe church buildings are the most underutilized buildings.
Of course.
They're great on the weekend, but most of the time, churches
Sit
throughout
empty.
the week. And here, we have limitations, obviously, because there's other businesses that operate even on weekends, because of the venue next door. We can't do stuff on Friday or Saturday night. And again, like with how it's been so amazing, we work with it because it's been so good, and we wouldn't be where we're at without that. But when we have a building with really no limitation, I would love to be able to work a way where we're literally reaching those kids like during the week, where again, we know what private schools are like with for special needs kids, because we put our kids in there. We know the expense of what it took. And we know that most families never even would have that option. They could never even think about some of the tuitions for private schools, specifically special needs kids, it can be $75,000 a year for one kid. It can be $30,000 a year. If you find a cheap one, it can be $15,000. So what would it look like if God gave us a building one day and we got some people that were passionate about it and say, look, we probably can't offer it for free, but what's the right bottom we can do to just make it affordable for these families to make it happen? And it's a hole in our system right now. I think our public school system's amazing, and this is like a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But when it comes to special needs, especially kids like ours, our kids are high functioning, so they're not really special education, they're not really mainstream, so they fall in the middle. So if they were in public school, because we did it, they get mainstreamed. But they get a little bit of help during the day, but they don't really learn anything. But what would it look like if we keep them engaged all day long with other peers? And so that's a big heart of ours. And like, again, as we continue to move forward, who knows what God has in store? I've just learned it's always better to just not try to get ahead of it.
Of course.
Because every time, I think you always have to plan for the future, but you also have to just
work with what you got.
Work with what you've got and not. I think a lot of times we can fall into a wishing mentality where if we had it, we would do this or we would do that. And it's like, well, what can you do with what you do have?
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So, for all those that there may be either other pastors who are looking to start that kind of ministry, or other pastors who are looking to maybe start offering that type of, ministry for kids with special needs and families with special needs kids, what is some advice or some things that you would give to them, or, anything valuable?
Yeah, I think the main thing is, I think at some point the culture in the church has to shift from can we reach these kids to how can we reach these kids? Because right now, in my opinion, think about it, any other ministry in the church, Sunday morning services, they're difficult sometimes, but we're going to pull them off. Worship teams, we might have to get creative with who do we get to play this week, but we're going to pull it off. Kids ministry, it's hard at times. It's kind of like the Bible says, go into all the nations, preach the gospel to all nations. So we have to, how do we reach everybody? And so for me, my heart has become, I'm viewing special needs families personally in America as an unreached people group. Because they're really unreached. They might have been reached before they had kids, but once they got those kids, a lot of them, they don't have anywhere to go. There's no outlet. So how do we really just take the equation out of your mind of we've got to spend $100,000. What could we do with $500? Like, how can we start getting creative? If it's a sensory corner in a room, if it's buying headphones for a kid, if it's just talking with mom and dad and saying, look, we want to make this work for you. We just don't know how. If pastors would have that conversation, 99% of those families would just be so grateful you're trying.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. Just try something. And that's one thing, too, going into next year that I'm excited about. It'll roll out probably first half of next year at some point. But I get tons of phone calls because they know we do something. So I'm actually going to start offering basically consulting. Like, I'm not doing it to make a side hustle. It's just I'm trying to streamline how do people get information. So I've been praying about it for a while, and I've talked to a few people, and they say, hey, we do feel there's a big part of what God's called y'all to do. But yeah, I mean, we've had mega churches meet with us. We've had churches smaller than us. But it's been kind of wild to see, just because, again, I love it because it shows they're trying something. Like we had one mega church, I'm not going to throw their name out there, but they came and met with us. They walked through our kids' rooms, and it felt so weird because I'm like,
We know.
why don't I go look at y'all's rooms?
Yeah, and tell you what you can't put in.
They got the full playscapes and everything,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, y'all come look at these 3 classrooms.
Yeah.
But it was really more of just they needed to see how simple it could be.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be
It
extravagant.
doesn't have to be extravagant, So, and they were able within 6 weeks to go back, and they're offering it now.
Oh, wow,
They
that's
said-
awesome.
He texted me on a Sunday morning, and he said, "I want to let you know we started it today. We're so
That's
excited.
so
Thank you
good.
for your time." So, I want to have more and more of those conversations. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, you can reach out to our church, reach out to our website. There's a contact that comes to me. I'm happy to talk to anybody. I've literally talked to churches all over the country now because of our network, and just because it's one of those things where a lot of times people just don't know who to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I could just give some practical advice to any pastor, would be just don't be scared to talk to the family. I feel like a lot of times we're so concerned we're going to offend the family if we say, hey, your child was a little aggressive today, or they were doing this and we just don't know what to do. Could you help give us some advice? Versus, hey, your kid was aggressive, we can't have him come back anymore.
Gotcha.
Because if that was a typical kid, we don't do that.
Yeah.
If it's a kid without special needs, we say, hey, they bit someone today, they can't do that again. It's not a door closer where, hey, you are out of here now. And special needs families, because we're so used to being told no, when someone tells us yes, or even just not no, if it's, hey, we want to work towards it, they're so, like, they will be as accommodating as I promise they can be, because if they see you're trying, like, you'll be their best friend. Yeah.
That's good. And, lastly, Pastor, for those families that do have special needs kids who are looking for a church in the area, whether it be here at Purpose or anywhere else, what is something that you think as a parent of special need or kids on the spectrum, what are some things that you would tell them to look out for in searching for a church?
Yeah. I would tell them first to have a lot of grace, because not every church you're going to walk into is going to be ready for your kid tomorrow. I mean, I'll be fully transparent. We can sit here and make it seem like we got this thing all figured out. There could be a kid that comes in tomorrow, and we're going to have to reshape the entire thing because what we're doing, this is different.
Yeah.
What we're doing right now is working with who we have, and as God has sent more kids in, it's continuing to work. But like full transparency, we don't have anything specifically for teenagers right now. So if a teenager parent called, I would say, well, this is what we could do right now. So I'm not trying to make it seem like we have it all figured out, because we don't. But for those families, I would say have grace. And there's nothing wrong with like contacting the church ahead of time. I mean, we don't go to places if we don't know what we're going to encounter. We at least try to find some information before we get there.
Of course.
So shoot an email to the kids. Like, go through their contact page. If I were being fully transparent, if you send an email through their contact page that says "contact me" and you're asking, my child has autism or my child has Down syndrome, could y'all help him or her in the kids' rooms? If it takes you a week to get a response, that might be your response. That you might know they're probably just trying to figure out what they're going to do. But yeah, just reach out. I mean, you could reach out to me. If Purpose isn't your church, that's cool. I can still point you in directions of churches that I know that can do some stuff.
That's awesome.
There's some amazing churches that do a lot. I mean, there's churches that do far better than us, I know River Point. They do great with special needs. When we got out here, that's where we went for a little bit, because they have the ministry called iFit. And again, that's not competition. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So some of these teenagers that don't work here, River Point, like, because our goal is to get you to church.
That's awesome.
So if it's not all going to be here. But yeah, so I think just finding the places that are willing to accommodate. Just look for somebody that the answer is not immediately no. Gotcha. If the answer is no, I wouldn't say don't give up on church. Just keep trying.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Pastor, for coming on. It was really awesome to be able to hear the vision of the church. I can't get enough of hearing your story and how much the church has grown and being able to be a part of it, especially with the kids ministry. So thank you for taking the time out to come on and talk with us again. Do you mind praying us out?
Yeah. Yeah. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. I thank you for this opportunity. Yes, Jesus, God, I pray that as this goes out, that God, it reaches people that need to hear it. God, I pray right now for the pastors who are striving, the pastors who were falling into the trap of what I used to fall into, that God, you would just let them be content in who they are. Let them be the best version of who you have called them to be, the unique version of what you wanted them to be. I pray for all the special needs families that might hear this, that God, would you let this just be an encouragement, that God, there's people out there, and God, let it also just be an encouragement that every single day, there's more and more churches that are realizing we've got to do something. The numbers of autism and all the other things are just climbing. So, God, I pray that you would continue to give churches creative ideas, give pastors creative ideas, but God, also give pastors the heart to reach everybody in their community.
Yes, Jesus.
God, these families that so desperately need what we are already offering, we don't have to do anything different to make them feel included other than just making an effort. And God, I pray that you would use all of us to do that. I just pray for kingdom ideas that are going to come from people that, God, are going to take this ministry even further than what we've seen before. And God, we thank you for it. It is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. If you would like any of the information to get a hold of Pastor Derrick on information of whether a church that has the opportunity for you and your family to visit, or information on consulting for kids ministry, we will put a link down in the comment section so that you can get a hold of them. And again, thank you, Pastor, for your time.
You bet.
See ya. Done. This episode is brought to you by Zing Media Co. Zing is a social media marketing company that helps small to medium-sized companies and organizations that want to make a positive impact in their communities. If you're in need of social media marketing, then reach out to Zing. Contact the team at zingmediaco.com.